Department of Energy, generally government relations, but also help out with other things and consider the community heat pump deployment program to be a little bit my baby. So I'm glad to still be getting to work on it. So it's really advocates that design the program in the bill, but just helping it get through the process to now after the bill passed. I want to, I guess we can go to the next slide. So this is the first meeting of the advisory council that's laid out very explicitly in the bill. And what we're going to do this morning is take some time to do welcome and introductions. And then I'll turn things over to James Kogel, who will be talking about what the bill has to say about the work of the council, and then also share some sort of documentation that we've put together to run past all of you to make sure that what our understanding of what the council is meant to do matches with yours, and then the procedures going from the bill to action makes sense, and just get your input on those. And as you can see, also an election of a chairperson would be ideal today. That is required in the statute, as well as a chance for just general comments and questions. We have a note on here about public comment. Interestingly, for this first meeting, it's essentially just the advisory council members this time around, just so we can kind of get our feet under us more procedurally. But there's some of you that are on the council and some of you that aren't. So that could be a place for the people that aren't, but are here to have a chance to engage too. Just the fun things that come sometimes in the technical details. We're gonna go to the next slide and just really talk about WebEx for a second. I don't know if everyone's familiar with WebEx or not, but since it can be a little bit foreign to people since it's not as common as other platforms, I just wanted to make sure folks saw where the chat is in that bottom corner. Take a second to see where you raise your hand. It's like this little icon that looks kind of like a fist, but I guess it's just kind of a short hand. That's to raise your hand if you wanted to interject into the conversation, and we would love to hear from you in the chat or with hands raised, or even come off mute and talk for that matter. I don't really mind. It's a small group, but I think we just want to promote participation of this group. It's really an advisory council, right? So we really want to hear from you. So take a minute, make sure you understand how to engage on this platform. And if you have any questions, let us know. We can go to the next slide now, thanks. So today the panelists and participants are the advisory council members and ODO staff, like I said. Generally speaking, at future meetings, we're likely to have members of the public attend as well. And so just know that they would participate during the public comment at the end of the meeting. But we want to hear from the public too. So we usually say that it's okay to participate in the chat throughout the conversation is how we generally manage that. So that way we're kind of making sure that we're prioritizing the voices of those that are having the experience of running the program, like each of you, but also to hear from the public as well. So on technology needs, we just kind of talked about WebEx. If you're having any issues or you need something, just ask for it. And then Patricia Phillips in the chat. And when we go around and do introductions, she's a key program staffer. You'll meet Patricia, but you can chat her anytime about technical WebEx needs. Finally, our meetings will be recorded. So our meeting is being recorded and then posted on the program website. And then in the future, meeting materials will be posted on the program website as well. So keep an eye on that in the future. And with that, we can go to the next slide, and then it'll be time for us to go around the horn and do some introductions. So we have some community agreements that we use for public meetings that I thought would make a nice starting space for this group to talk about kind of what they want to make sure that the community agrees to during these meetings. And really what we want to do is foster an inclusive and respectful meeting, a meeting where you want to participate, you feel like you know that we want to hear from you and you feel comfortable expressing yourself, and that also the people that are at the table are respectful of different ideas, different approaches, disagreements even at times, as we consider this program, how to implement it, etc. So kind of as a starting point, just wanted to share those ones, like I mentioned, that we use frequently in our work: to be present and ready to learn, to be respectful of others, to remember that learning happens outside our comfort zone. So sometimes your experience might be different from someone else's, and you might benefit from listening to their experience too, even if it at first feels uncomfortable. And then listening to learn and not necessarily to respond, which that's the one I always have to work on the most. Anyway, so what I'd love to do is have people, if they feel comfortable, we can take the slides down for a second and come off camera and just kind of go around the horn and introduce ourselves, share what organization we work with. It's important for us from a formal perspective to know who is going to be the council member for the sake of any voting that might happen. So if you are one of multiple representatives from your organization, just say that. So our group from the tribe, just let us know if there's one voice that we would count for the vote, even if you all talked amongst yourselves before saying anything. And then just if there's anything else from those community agreements, and gosh, I wanted to take the slide down and maybe I could cut and paste them quickly into the chat, or somebody else can, to just, if there's anything that you'd like to see added there, and then we can add that for future meetings to set us up for success at the beginning of each meeting with those community agreements shared by this community, not just the ones that we generated for you. Or for ourselves in the past, I guess is a better way to put it. So I've introduced myself. I'd love to introduce the people from Odo that are here, and then we'll turn to you, the advisory committee members, so you can all start to get to know each other. So it looks like James is thinking, so I'm going to let him think and maybe have Patricia and Pandian introduce themselves, and then James. And thanks for putting that in the chat, James.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Patricia Phillips. I'm here to help with the technology needs and taking notes and raising, anyway, just if you have any questions, concerns, so you can put them in the chat, or you can comment about some issues you may be having, and we'll do what we can to help you. Pandian.
You're muted.
Thanks for the reminder. Thanks, Patricia. I'm Pandian Krishnaswamy. I'm managing the Energy Development Services Division, and Community Heat Pump Program is one of the programs that I'm managing. Thanks for taking the time today to join us. James?
Hi, yeah. I'm James Kogel. I'm a policy analyst here at Odo. I helped draft the program rules when the program was established, and I've been working on the program, communicating with a number of you. So yeah, nice to see you all.
Right, and with that, happy to just, I guess I could call on folks or just see if folks feel ready to go.
Hey everyone, I'm Andrew Spreadborough. I'm with Neighbor Impact, and we are a community action agency in Central Oregon. Our geographic region is Crook, Deschutes, and Jefferson counties, and the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs. And so the middle of the state, and we are operating the community heat pump program in our service area. So, and I will be the official representative.
Great, thank you so much. Anybody want to go next? Looks like Molly might be ready, and then we could go to the room and then to the folks off camera.
Sure. Hello, Molly Hatfield, she, her pronouns. I'm the Senior Climate Justice Manager at Earth Advantage, and we are administering the Community Heat Pump Deployment Program in the Metro, Mid-Valley, and South Valley Mid-Coast areas, and I will be the representative for our organization.
Molly? Joan and friends, you ready?
Yeah, good morning. I'm Joan Duggar. I'm with the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, and I'm the program manager here, and we have the other staff here that will be administering this program. It will either be myself or Sean Lena, who is the manager for the department, that will be attending these, and others as well as that have questions. So glad to be aboard. This will be administered throughout our Oregon area. I don't know if our service area is considered to be the entire state of Oregon, so I'm assuming that that would be something that we could do with this program.
And then Elena?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everyone. Elena Coleman here with Lake County Resources Initiative. We're a small local nonprofit down in Lakeview, Oregon, which is in a little eastern Oregon, east of Klamath Falls by about an hour and a half. We serve Klamath and Lake counties with this program. We got it up and running this fall around September, October. and are looking forward to, continuing to install heat pumps in non-Energy Trust territory is kind of our main focus with this program. And so we're really appreciative of this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to this meeting. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Casey, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Casey Buckles. I'm with Mid-Columbia Community Action. And I wrote the grant for us. I actually run the energy department, but our weatherization department is very small. So I just was helping them get some additional funding. I don't know how much information because I just got here late, but we are not running it as a rebate program. It's just run in tandem with our grants to help us serve more homes, because we have about a 3 to 4 year wait list in our area and a lot of need.
Great. Well, thank you and welcome. All we're doing is introducing ourselves, and then I kind of forgot to ask people along the way if they had any thoughts or changes to the community agreements. We can also revisit them in the next call too, and anytime we want to add things, the group can talk about it. And those we just put in the chat a few minutes ago, but I don't know if Casey can see them. And then I noticed that someone from the Odo team, Michael Williams, joined. Michael, did you want to introduce yourself?
Keep clicking the wrong buttons here. Good morning, everyone. Michael Williams with Oregon Department of Energy and Central Services. So I provide, my team provides procurement and accounting and services like that to Pondian's team.
Great. Thanks, Michael. All right. And with that, I think we've all said hi to each other. And with that, I'm gonna, if we want to just pop the slides back up quick to revisit the agenda so folks kind of know what's coming next, and then we'll be sharing some other documents, not necessarily the slides, but just to give Casey a chance to see the agenda, which is on the next slide. So what'll come next is James is going to talk about the council policies and procedures. We really want your input into these, so please be ready to take a look. We want this. I want to be clear that this council was designed by advocates because they wanted to make sure that you had a voice with us. So I want to make sure that that's really clear. The intention is not the meeting. I mean, we benefit from learning from you a ton, but we also want to make sure that you're finding benefit from these conversations. And then the election of the chairperson, and then general questions and comments. And James will be steering the ship from now on. So I'm happy to hand things over to James.
Right, thank you very much, Christy. I'm just gonna pull up a document now and get that shared. Just bear with me a moment. Yeah. All right. So you should all be seeing the draft kind of council procedures document. This was sent around without the highlighting on about a week ago. And we'll kind of walk through this just to kind of give everybody an opportunity to discuss them, highlight the areas that are in the statute, then the rules and the performance agreement, but in also the areas that are not in those, and we're kind of open for discussion and amending, editing, kind of forming how this council operates. So this is kind of the first meeting we wanted to kind of establish these procedures and how the council is gonna operate moving forwards. So we'll begin with the authority. So if anybody's having issues with seeing it as well, just let me know. We'll begin with the authority section and the goals and purpose sections. I know these stem directly from the legislation that established the program, And as you can see, the purpose of the council is to identify those best practices for administering grant funds and providing financial assistance, any barriers to administering those funds, and opportunities for providing technical assistance. And we're hoping that your experiences and expertise can help improve the program. Any questions about these two general areas? Feel free to raise a hand or pop anything in the chat, or just kind of come off mute as well as we go. I'll keep an eye out as well. So we're going to move into the activities and duties section, and you'll see the first two parts are not highlighted, and then the second two bullets are highlighted. So these first two, with the council's activities and duties to study, identify best practices associated with these areas identified in the goals and purpose section, and supporting the program reporting. So that this stems from the performance agreement reporting requirements. But then these additional areas here around supporting, providing feedback on approaches for outreach to communities, and sharing information about the program among interested contacts in the network, and also informing future program changes. Those were things that the program team here at Odo have kind of put into this document, but we're kind of looking for whether the council feels like that is appropriate activities and duties for this council, and just kind of opening it to give people opportunity to comment on that, ask questions about what any of these activities and duties might be. Yeah, just give people a moment to consider, and if they have any thoughts.
So I have one question. So what are opportunities or pathways to making changes to the program? I guess I'm wondering, I know that this program was created legislatively, and so there are some parameters and sideboards on what the program can and can't do that are legislatively mandated. Where does the authority lie in terms of making changes? What's the extent that could be changed at the department level versus what needs to be kind of run through a legislative process for changes? How do you distinguish the process for recommendations or changes?
Yeah. So there's kind of three pieces to kind of the program. We have the bill, the statute, legislation, which would be any changes to that core part of the program would be a legislative process. We have the administrative rules that have been established, which kind of expand upon the legislation, provide more detail to how the program is implemented. And that is a kind of a departmental process that if there are changes that need to be made to the program rules that don't have a basis in the statute, that we can, that's a kind of a process that the department can lead and make those changes. And then there's kind of the performance agreements that add some framework to each of the contracts with each of the organizations. So those are it's really the statute and the rules are the two main drivers for, and each of them are very different. So I think it kind of depends on the recommended changes or anything as to what pathway would need to be explored. And in some cases, it might be both that would need to happen.
Yeah, and I'll just add really quickly that I do our government affairs work, so the legislative side is kind of my bailiwick, and we're already signaling to the governor's office that we would likely have a bill on heat pump related items. We have to extend the sunset for our renters program, for example. So we kind of have to have a bill. So if the governor chooses not to have us run that bill, we already have legislators who are willing to introduce it. So there will almost certainly be a bill related to heat pumps in the next session if we want to extend the renters program. And then that can be a vehicle for changes from this group. So I would love to have that conversation with this group along the way ahead of that bill being drafted to see if there are things that you and we collectively can bring to the table for the legislature to consider. So just a heads up that that's kind of on my radar. And almost certainly something that we'd want to talk about this summer and fall, if not sooner. but that's like the timeline for us to get language together.
I'll just give another moment in case anybody has any further questions, follow-on questions or comments, or any comments related to any of the activities and duties. And feel free to kind of circle back to any of these as well as we go through the document, if as we're going through some of the discussion later on in the document kind of triggers some thoughts about some of the earlier things. Just always looking for some feedback from you all and any comments. So we can move into the membership section. Now each entity that enters into a performance agreement will need to select a representative for the council. So this is why all of you are here. And Odo is currently reviewing applications from the second opportunity period, which may result in additional members coming onto the council when, if and when performance agreements are signed for unserved regions or tribes in Oregon. So Odo will be providing support staff for the council. And so all of this is kind of in the statute. Another piece in the statute is members are entitled to compensation and expenses as provided in a specific statute there. But this relates to kind of compensation for travel per diem while traveling. And then the piece in highlighted there is something that we've put in there around just kind of the duration of council members remaining active through the close of the program, which the performance agreements are set for December 30th, 2025. Any questions or comments regarding membership? And again, feel free to come back with any comments as we go through. So one of the pieces in statute is that the council shall elect one of its members to serve as a chairperson. And that person will preside over council meetings. And the next agenda item will be to elect a chairperson. Now, before we do that, any questions or comments in this section? And you see this section in yellow is we wanted to kind of define when a chair would be elected. Obviously, the timing is a little different because we would be electing them in the first meeting of the year. And then we'd look to, if we kept this language in here, we'd look to elect chairperson for the next year at the last meeting of this year. So they would, that's kind of the proposed language. Obviously, that's just something we put in there to kind of have a defined procedure for how, when and how a chairperson is elected. If there's any thoughts of how that would be done differently, feel free to let us know. Or if there's any questions or comments about that.
I'm wondering if you can clarify a little bit about the role of the chair. I see in the document that it's presiding at meetings is the only really explicit role for the chair. Are you anticipating other functions for the chair? I'm thinking, you know, Christy, when you brought up legislative work, are you looking for like the chair to serve a role around advocacy for the program or for kind of government relations? Are you looking for the chair to agenda build these meetings? I mean, is it literally just kind of presiding over the meetings, or is there a broader role anticipated?
Do you want me to start, Christine, and maybe you can discuss anything?
I don't know. My answer was just going to be, I think that's up to the group to decide, but maybe that's not the answer James wants to give.
No, I think that is it really is up to the council to this membership to kind of decide what role they foresee the chairperson having. We do have in this next section some sections that we kind of drafted around kind of how we would collect input on possible agenda items, and that we'd work with the chairperson to finalize an agenda. So that's I guess another piece to the role of the chairperson would be to kind of, we'd have these agenda items, and we'd probably just be looking to communicate to finalize an agenda with the chairperson. And then the department staff would kind of do all the circulation around and identifying dates and times. So that's, I think, the other part around the chairperson's role that's in this document right now, but yeah, open for discussion.
Well, I guess I can start the discussion. You know, probably like all of you, I'm very busy, don't have a lot of time to take on new roles and responsibilities. That said, you know, if needed, I would be willing to serve in the role. But what I'll say is I do not come from a background with a lot of expertise in heat pumps or even the specifics of this project. I think my experience is more as a generalist in community development work and implementing programs and so forth and so on. So, you know, I would certainly defer to any of you on the call who have a stronger track record in the world of heat pumps and kind of maybe have more of a technical background than I. But certainly if no one puts their hand up and you need somebody, I'd be, I guess, willing. What do others think?
Yeah, I think that sounds great. I appreciate you offering to take on that responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah, I also have zero experience with heat pumps. I work in energy assistance. Yeah, and my capacity is beyond zero at the moment. So I definitely appreciate you being willing to step up. Hopefully there is somebody with a little bit more technical knowledge that's willing, but in my experience with these things, that generally doesn't happen. So thank you very much.
I feel like if there's anything else from the group to say, I think what could make sense is, since we're statutorily required to have a chairperson, having someone willing to do it is great. If we have a decision, maybe someone else can do it later, or if we want to change the role or define it further or do something differently, or want someone from the council to take on like a different type of leadership role, we could always do that too, if that makes sense to people, and just kind of keep it light for now, someone to preside over the meetings. And then if you want to do more than that, Andrew, or if someone else comes on and you want to hand it off or something, I'm sure we can figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah, I would also say these procedures will be looking to kind of, unless it's edits, looking to kind of adopt these, but then as Chris was saying, what's in here can change based upon the action of the council as well over time. So
I think these look okay to me. Very straightforward and pretty simple. So I don't see anything that I would object to.
Great. I can move through the rest of this then. So this next section goes into the meetings, and this was kind of an area that wasn't really defined in statute or the rule or the performance agreements so much, other than the chairperson can call meetings during the year. And here we'll have, we're proposing that the council will meet 2 times annually. We know you're all very busy, but we do want your input, your feedback. And then, as we talked about, the department are going to staff this council, and we'll work to identify dates and times to try and get as many council members participating. We'll kind of work to collect possible agenda items, and then work with the chairperson to finalize that agenda, and then we'll send all those meeting materials and agenda around at least a week prior to each meeting. And then there we'll talk about how we'll put the meeting materials and everything on the recordings on the department website. And then we added in this section about absences. We know that sometimes schedules don't always align. So we thought it might make sense to allow a member to request an absence, and or that they could have a proxy kind of come to the meeting in their place. Are there any questions or comments on those 2 sections? And then these final procedures are just kind of the official action by the council requires approval by a majority of all council members, and the council may adopt the rules necessary for operation of the council. I'm kind of seeing this as that document, and we can kind of this can be amended by the majority of council members kind of voting on it as well. So as the time goes on, if there's changes that need to be made to the procedures of the council, we can kind of look to do that. If there are no further questions or comments, I guess I'll give a moment to see if there are any further questions or comments. If not, I would ask each council member to vote on whether to adopt these procedures. Alternatively, if people have suggested edits, we could always circulate and request adoption by email later on, but it sounds like there's no edits at the moment. So I guess easiest way might just be to call on each of you just to kind of go through and vote on whether you would like to adopt the procedures, and then we can kind of finalize them. So I'll just kind of go down the list on my screen. So I'll start with Elena.
Yeah, I vote that we adopt.
Okay. Thank you. Andrew?
Vote to approve.
Okay. Joan?
Vote to approve.
Okay. Casey?
Vote to approve.
Molly?
Vote to approve.
Okay, great. Thank you all. And then next on the agenda is the election of the chairperson. So we've already discussed the role. And so for this year, the chairperson would preside over any meetings held this year, and a vote would be held in the last meeting of the year to elect the chair for the next year. So at the moment, we would have another meeting later on in the year, and that would be the meeting they preside over. They would have a vote at the end of that meeting for the next chairperson for the next year. That person could still stand for chairperson for another year. We don't have anything in the procedures around that. So I guess I just ask now whether any members of the council wish to serve as chairperson for the remainder of the year.
I would be willing to serve, but again, would defer to others if anyone has a strong interest.
Okay.
Not hearing any strong interest.
Not hearing any. I guess we'll just look for a vote from each of the council members on whether to elect Andrew as the chair. So again, we'll kind of just go down my list. So we'll go with Elena.
Yes, I vote yes. I also just want to say that I know a bit about heat pumps, and so if you ever need a resource to, ask any questions about anything, I'm here for you. So thanks.
And Joan.
I vote yes to affirm.
Okay. Casey.
I vote yes.
And Molly.
My vote is yes.
All right, great. We have a chairperson. Wonderful.
It's an honor.
Thanks, Andrew.
So we're now into a portion of agenda that is kind of time for open discussion. We wanted to give council members an opportunity to ask any questions, have any comments, whether for each other, for the department. We just kind of wanted to have a space where you would be able to ask questions and kind of discuss. And so this is that time. So I'll give people a moment.
James, is this time just for general discussion amongst us, or is there something more specific you're looking for?
No, this is just an opportunity to see if you have any questions. I just kind of wanted to, since it's our first meeting, we really just wanted to aim to establish the procedures, elect a chairperson with this meeting, and then just give a space for people to ask questions or just have any comments for each other or for Odo. So yeah, just kind of an open space. And if there's no questions or comments, we can finish the meeting early. That's absolutely fine. But we wanted to give people an opportunity to have a voice.
I do have something quick. I was curious, and I don't know if this is appropriate space to ask this, but I was wondering if any of you have projects on the ground yet, have implemented your programs and, you know, successfully completed any projects. And if that's going well, I guess. I don't know if that's an appropriate thing to ask here, but I'm just curious.
A great prompting question. We love it.
Yeah, I can say that our program has definitely implemented some projects in the Metro region and in the South Valley Midcoast region.
And for Central Oregon, same. We launched in the, I don't know, gosh, November, I think, October, November time range. Have an open application process. We've got some projects underway, most certainly. We've done a blended rebate/grant program, and I know we've paid out some rebates. We've got some grant projects underway. So yeah, we're definitely rolling forward.
Awesome.
Is there anything specific that you were wondering about?
Well, not really, I guess. We've had, I think, about 14 projects installed now, most in North Lake County, which is like non-Energy Trust territory. They're on Mid-State and Surprise Valley co-op utilities. And so we've been able to serve up there, which is great. Are you guys kind of stacking this funding or using it on its own for these projects? I just have so many questions. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, and actually, well, I don't know why that's happened. There were just random balloons in my window. I'm not sure why. But I do think that because we have such different programs, one agenda item for a future meeting might just be a quick introduction to how we've each set them up, because I do think that there are some differences in how we've approached it, and I'm very interested in kind of like exploring the differences and the similarities among our programs. But Elena, to answer your question, yes, absolutely. Most of the funds that have been spent so far have been stacked with other grants or incentives. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, we got funding from Mid-State for those North Lake projects, which was great. I think that's a super important thing to be doing with this money to stretch it even further.
Yeah, we have the same approach, where I think a lot of our projects have multiple incentives or grants or rebates, what have you.
And then I think also maybe at our next meeting, we could talk about, I'm curious about intake processes and kind of your like guidelines and those types of things too. Again, like I said, I have so many questions, but we can push that for the next meeting as well, since there's not too much time left.
Agreed. I'd like to hear from everybody what their experience is, and maybe I don't know when our next meeting is envisioned to occur, but I think an agenda item around what's working, what's not working may also be timely, and I think that's a lot of the heart of the matter here and the feedback that the department's looking for, I'm sure. And so I know that's a very big discussion, probably can't be finished in 12 minutes. So I'll just flag that as well. We've got some feedback on things we like and things maybe if we had the ability to wave the magic wand, we would change. So maybe we could all be thinking about those sorts of things and be ready to review at our next meeting, if that's appropriate. But I do have a question, unrelated or maybe related. So I think if I'm counting right, there were 5 areas, providers here on the call. I think I'm counting that right. If I'm not, or if I am, does this constitute the full range of providers currently with agreements, or are there others that were unable to join us? What's the current count, I guess?
Yeah, this is all of the organizations that we have agreements with at this time. And it covers kind of One Tribe and then mental math in my head, 6 regions. And then we have closed an application period just recently, so we're reviewing those applications at the moment. So potential for additional members to join us later in the year. But at present, this is the all organizations that have agreements.
So there's another round of applications under review, you said, so there may be other parts of the state represented. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we did not receive applications for all regions or tribes in the first round. So we opened a second round to see if we could get more regions or tribes served.
Gotcha. Well, I guess my other question, yeah, I'm very curious to hear who submitted applications and kind of the status, and if there will be additional rounds. I have a particular interest in the Warm Springs community, and I'd be curious to see if they applied, and if not, if there's an opportunity to work with them to get an application in, and I'd be kind of willing to help with that. So maybe at some point, I'd appreciate hearing more about the status of those applicants.
We can share that. One thing I want to flag, we can't share it until after the competitive review's over, right? But one thing that I can share is that we actually have legislation related to this program that is working through the legislature right now that deals with the unserved regions or tribes. We expect it to be roughly 6 tribes that are unserved, and after the application review, we hope that every region and a couple more tribes than are here today will be served by the program directly. But what we wanted to do was have a way to make sure that money didn't get sort of trapped and that those tribes were left unserved. And so what we have in place for now, rather than doing another opportunity announcement, is actually to transfer the money to our renters program and then work with those tribes to administer the program ourselves in those tribes and for those tribal members.
Okay.
So that's kind of like our fail safe, because we had to ask now while the legislature's in session, or we wouldn't be able to do anything. So we kind of had that like legislative timeline where it was like, we have to act now or that money would just be trapped potentially. So that's what will happen effective July 1st, is that the money will transfer over and then we'll get to work serving those tribes from our renters program, which we've talked to several tribes and they actually welcomed that option because so many of their residents and members are tribal members are renters.
Mm-hmm.
So they were comfortable with that sort of temporary fix as we kind of figure out moving forward. Clearly we have an issue where we have some regions or tribes that it was hard to get administrators. So that's something that we should talk about when we talk about the what works and what doesn't work in the future. We have thoughts too on this, so don't think we're going to be like super defensive. We want to hear from you on changes. That bill is moving through the legislature, just passed out of committee unanimously. It has some other pieces to it as well, but that way we can serve those tribes especially perhaps some regions if contracts don't get done by July 1st.
Great. Okay. Sounds like a creative fix.
Temporary, just to be clear too. So yeah, Band-Aid.
And my only other question was, what's your recommendation, department, on next meeting? I think the policies and procedures said 2 meetings per year. I guess that's a minimum. What's your recommendation, or do you have specific needs or interest in terms of a next meeting where we can dig a little deeper into some of these recommendations and thoughts? Is there any timeline issue from your perspective?
I think we'd like to hear from the group.
Well, I don't have an opinion right off the bat. I mean, obviously, if there are operational reasons to meet and to provide more feedback and recommendations, if there's something, get the legislative bill ready, what have you. I guess we'd look to you, staff, to let us know. I know from my perspective, again, super busy, don't necessarily want to fill up my calendar with meetings. So I'm certainly not going to advocate for a monthly meeting. But on the other hand, if we only meet twice a year, that's maybe not frequently enough to really generate any momentum or do any productive work. So hopefully we'd find something in between monthly and twice a year. But I don't have a recommendation. I haven't thought about it. And I'm not fully, I guess, oriented to the scope of the work for the council and work products and that sort of thing. So
I would suggest maybe since we have a reporting schedule already for this, that we time it sort of in line with that to some degree. That would also provide a little bit of support if people are having trouble in any way with their reporting. So maybe time it before the reporting is due.
Yeah, and to add on what Casey said, that would split the difference with quarterly instead of, biannually, which seems like a reasonable cadence. And I will just put in my vote, like I think there's a lot of interesting conversation to be had among us, and I would like to have that conversation like sooner than, the fall. So even if we decide not to go with a quarterly cadence, I wouldn't mind having another meeting that was a little bit more, discussion focused and kind of best practices sharing, et cetera, at some point in the within the next few months.
I agree with that. I think maybe like May or July. I think I would prefer May, possibly a little sooner than July, but
What I'll add is I assume that that's fine with us to do something in May, and we can help with scheduling that, et cetera. That would be nice for us to have that conversation to help inform possible legislation. We then might be in the place of it being too soon to welcome the whole kind of second cohort. We might have some of them ready to join, but that might be like the quarterly cadence might make sense to do, like May is like a spring one and then do something in the summer. Or like a few months later, but potentially if there's a legislative deadline, we might make that summer one a little bit earlier in the summer to make sure that we have a chance if there's like something with the legislative timelines. If it's an agency bill, then our timelines are just sooner. If it's a legislator, there's a little more flexibility. But it could be we do May, but we're not quite ready for everybody to say, yes, we want to suggest this in legislation, which then would maybe mean like meeting in like July instead of like August, which would be 3 months later, if that makes sense. So if people are comfortable with like a little wiggle to help us with that legislative timeline, that would be rad. Elena, I thought you were giving me a high five at first. Anyway.
It also might be helpful if we did one in May for those organizations that are going to get their programs up and running to listen to a few of us who have been doing this for a while now and kind of have processes and what's working for us and what's not working for us, just to kind of inform them. I kind of wish that I had that. And so if we would be able to maybe provide that if they were interested in just kind of like joining just to mostly listen and to like ask questions and that type of thing, that might be really productive as well.
Yeah, that sounds great to me. I just think if we do May, we might have some of them, and then by later in the summer, we should have everybody that's going to be in the cohort. That's my guess.
So yeah, both might be appropriate. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I love that. Like, I think I worked really closely with the person who drafted this bill. Her name's Oriana Magnera. I know some of you know her well, probably. From Verde. Yeah, exactly. But this was the exact intention, was for this group to get together and help each other, support each other, and then help us make the program better or whatever for the long run. So I think that's really in line. So I know it's time. I know we're losing folks, but James, is there anything else that you wanted to cover before we have a timeline for our next meeting? We have a chair. We have ratified documents.
Yeah, this is great. Appreciate everybody's input and comments, and we can call the meeting to a close. And I look for communications about setting up a future meeting. Appreciate everybody's input today.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank y'all.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for the broad participation. Really great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Bye.